Good morning. I wanted to kind of wrap up trigger plans this week. Really, the coaching corner is about some of the tools that I use with my clients. There's positive psychology sprinkled into those tools, but sometimes they're just tools that were born out of necessity for myself, and then they come up for my clients, and trigger plans are one of those things. And it's a challenge. And I have to tell you, they came from a place where I got triggered a lot. I kind of mentioned it, but I definitely sugarcoated it. I would get triggered by things, and especially be kind of behind closed doors was really where I had the worst behavior, kind of with my kids or my husband. And I could go from 0 to 100. And I didn't like how I was reacting to things. It didn't make me feel good. And this week, I've posted some things about positive mindsets and having control over our emotions and our behavior and the way that we react to things. So although trigger plans is more born from me, it does have, there's a good tie to positive psychology with it, because positive psychology is about being aware of our brain wiring and our negativity bias and having a choice on the way that we think about things and having control over our behavior. And so for me, trigger plans was just another way for me to manage being a good person, but not always showing up the way that I wanted to. So with that said, let's kind of wrap up trigger plans with, we've learned about how we are reacting to something is definitely the first stage. If we have a negative reaction, we really want to be aware of those things. And as we get better at our triggers, the ones that really linger are probably the ones with the big conversations. So as we get better at practicing positive psychology and being positive, we'll notice a point in our day where we completely go off the rails. And that's a good moment for self-reflection, awareness, and really putting a plan in place. Even if it's not a trigger plan, really looking at some of our behavior. And I love Brene Brown, and also don't like her for this, but she's like, once you see a pattern, it's hard to not be aware of that pattern. And that is the same with all the things that we're doing with positive psychology. Once you create awareness around patterns, you really want to start looking at the things in life that are kind of not bringing you happiness. And it's not just as simple as be happy. It's really taking a time out for yourself to look at some of the things where maybe you say, like I was one, I'd be sorry and I could come back and have a rational conversation. But I really didn't want to keep having that behavior happen with those that I cared about. So when we think about positive psychology, we're trying to take you north of neutral. We're trying to, one of the posts was about, even when bad things happen, the only thing that we have control over is our reaction to them. So I want you to start gathering 3 tools, being aware of negative behavior you really want to start to manage, and figuring out those tools. Maybe a trigger plan is not for you, but really start researching when you have certain behaviors come up, something you can practice, because it's about rewiring our brains. And it's about that hardwiring that has negativity bias that's there to protect us, but really recognizing when that negativity bias isn't serving us. And then looking at 1 or 2 or 3 tools for a lifetime and practicing those tools. And I want you to really be aware when that you start to get really, 80% of a more positive mindset, that 20%, because those are the deep things that you might need to ask for help from. If you see a reoccurring behavior that you really can't control, that's when you should grab a friend and go talk to them about it, because sometimes just verbally processing to somebody else is really helpful. And that a lot of time is what coaching is. So we'll kind of take something that keeps reoccurring and we'll get a little plan around it and we'll practice it together. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up trigger plans. My coaching corner next week will be inevitably something that comes up for myself or from somebody that I'm working with in a coaching relationship, and we'll go from there. If you have any things that are coming up for you that you'd like a tool based in positive psychology or some of my coaching tools, please feel free to personal message me. And I wish you the best of luck with your trigger plan.